Well, good afternoon, YouTube. This is Pastor Lavelle Jennings here again from the Gazebo Talk here in Ottawa, Michigan. And we have a very special guest here today, and her name is Deborah Haugabook. And we're going to ask some questions because she's got a lot of history and a lot of projects going on right now. And we're going to get some conversation from her, and she's going to speak in a moment. And I just want to let you know that I'm excited to get the history, as always, about Ottawa and Baldwin. Stay tuned. Would you introduce yourself?
You got the name correct.
Okay. But
you did.
Okay, all right.
Deborah Haugabook.
Deborah Haugabook.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad to have you here today.
Thank you.
You have some history here in Ottawa, Michigan. When did you first come to Ottawa?
I've basically been in Ottawa all my life, over 60 years. I'm 64. I started coming here with my parents basically since I was an infant.
Wow. Did you go to school here?
No, I didn't. I was born and raised in Detroit. I'm a seasonal resident of Ottawa for over 60 years. My parents built a cottage up here in the early 60s.
Okay. And your parents, have they moved on? Have they passed away?
Yes, they're both passed away.
Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have, it was 5 of us. One passed away a few years ago, so now there's 4.
Okay.
Yes.
And do they now, are you the only one tied to this property up here? Because you do have property up here.
Correct. The cottage, all of the siblings inherited the cottage, my parents' cottage.
Okay.
Yes. But I have one sister who's in Los Angeles, another sister who's in Nashville, my brother's here in Michigan, and then myself. So it's primarily me and my brother who are in the house all the time in Ottawa.
So you know about the things, the past history about the beach and or the island up here, right? Correct?
Correct.
Okay, so back in the day, I'm going to say it like that. What do you remember about the things going out in Ottawa, like the businesses or the black-owned businesses, or the because I always get people telling me that it was hopping out here.
It was.
Okay. What can you tell me about a time period where it was stars coming here?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, when stars were coming up here, I was just a little girl,
okay.
so I don't know that part.
Okay, go ahead.
Don't know that part, but growing up, it was a different kind of Ottawa. The beach was packed. There were businesses along the beach area. It wasn't called Williams Island back then.
Okay.
We just called it the beach or Ottawa Lake or the island. We're going up to the island.
I heard that name.
And but there were actual businesses that set off of the beach.
Okay.
So right now it's Williams Island, and it's basically a park right now. But in that park area back in the day, there were restaurants. It was Polk's Roller Rink, which I roller skated at Polk's Roller Rink.
Okay.
There was a shooting gallery where kids would come up and shoot with the toy guns and win prizes at the gallery. There was a pool hall. There was in Ottawa, right at Williams Island.
Okay.
And there was Miss Tucker's Hamburgers and French fries.
I didn't hear that.
There was the Shrimp Hut, best shrimp you could get.
Really?
And then across the road, it was the Flamingo was actually open. So when I was growing up, my parents would drop us off we either roller skated or dropped us off at the beach to go swimming, and they went across the road to the Flamingo and partied.
Okay. So you were participating in a lot of things up here on the beach up here at that time.
I used to swim in Ottawa Lake as a girl. Well, I still do swim in Ottawa Lake. So,
and that's this lake right here.
That's this lake right here. Yes.
Okay. How far did you swim? Across the lake?
No, just as a little girl. We actually had ropes because there's a drop-off point, so a number of people have actually drowned in Ottawa Lake over the years, but there was a rope that roped off areas of the public beach, and kids didn't go past those floater type ropes. And there was also a lifeguard at the beach as well.
It was a lifeguard back then. Was it full-time lifeguard?
That I don't know.
Did he get, you know if he got paid or anything, or just out here just to be a
I believe he got paid, but I'm not sure. But he was, at the lake during the summertime.
Okay.
Yes.
What about back in the day, and at that time you're talking about, because we're talking about, like you said, you're a little girl, so what, in the 60s?
60s, 70s.
Did you experience from that time or any of the time from then, since then, any kind of racism or anything like that up here in Ottawa or even Baldwin, which is connected to her? Any kind of racism that you can recall?
I never have, but then again, I was a little girl in the 60s and 70s. 60s really didn't know what racism was when I was a child, but I never experienced that. And my parents, we always went to Baldwin. To restaurants and to Jones Ice Cream in Baldwin.
And that's been here a while too.
Yes, and my dad would take us to the drive-in up in Baldwin.
I remember that drive-in.
I never remember ever experiencing any type of racism in Idlewild or in Baldwin. Or we also went to Ludington all the time. And back in the 60s and 70s, and I never experienced any racism in any of these places.
So you moved away, or you was already away, you was just coming, at the time you were a little girl, were you here, living here, or you was actually living somewhere else coming up here?
Born and raised in Detroit.
Okay.
And we came up here all summer long. So my mother was a school teacher. And so when the kids got out of school for the summer, my mother was off from work. So we'd come up here when school let out in June, and we were up here until after Labor Day when school started back.
All right.
So the entire summer spent in Idlewild.
On your cottage up here, you have
in the cottage.
Okay.
On Paradise Lake. Yes.
Okay. So since then you've been going back and forth, and now that you're established, or as far as you had a job, and your job was in Detroit or it was in Los Angeles, where were you most of your time that you was not here?
Well, I was born and raised in Detroit, but coming up here during the summer as a seasonal resident. When I got out of high school, I ended up in Washington, D.C. I graduated from Howard University. After that, as soon as I graduated from Howard, I moved to Los Angeles, and I was there for 12 years working, but my 2-week vacations from my job, I would take my 2-week vacation and come straight to Idlewild and spend my entire 2-week vacation. Usually always around Idlewild week, around and the 2 weeks, the week before Idlewild week and then Idlewild week. So there hasn't been a summer except one time in my life when I actually missed a summer in Idlewild.
So this was like a vacation for you away from the city then, what you're saying?
Yeah, there's
peace.
I've been to some beautiful places because I did live in Los Angeles for 12 years. California is beautiful. But Idlewild has always been a second home for me, and it's no place like Idlewild. There's absolutely no place like Black Eden.
That's good. And so most of your time, and you still do it, you still come up here quite often from where you are now, from Detroit. You come back and forth.
Yes.
Okay. And here you do a little boating too. You got a kayak, and you go in this lake here.
Yeah, I've got a couple kayaks, a paddle boat, and I love to get in the lake.
That is wonderful.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I tell you what. Now, so coming up here all the time. And getting out of the city, evidently, you got some things in the fire, or something you wanna add to Ottawa, add to some things going on here. What you got going on?
Well, long story short, since I've been coming up here all my life, and I saw when pretty much Idlewild was in its heyday, and entertainers were coming up, and there were several businesses in Idlewild. And then I watched it on its decline, and I roller skated over at Polk's Roller Rink. At one point in time, we had 2 roller rinks. We had Polk's Roller Rink, and then we roller skated over at the Lot Owners. And then when Polk's Roller Rink was eventually demolished, then everybody roller skated over at the Lot Owners. So I watched Idlewild in its heyday and it's going down decline. And so as a teenager, I've been like waiting for Idlewild to make its comeback, right? And now that I'm 64, almost 65, I want to be a part of Idlewild's revitalization. Beautiful. I want to see it in my lifetime.
Yes.
So I'm retired, recently retired.
Praise God, okay.
And I was like, okay, what do I do now? Should I move back to California? Should I hate the winters, really hate the winters. And I'm like, oh, I need to go to a warm climate.
Yes.
But something was telling me that because I love Idlewild so much, I want to give back to the community. I wanted to invest.
Okay.
And so that's what I decided to do.
Okay.
I got to a point where like, okay, I'm just leaving. I'm just going to California.
Yes.
And then summertime rolled around. It's time to go to Idlewild for the usual, vacationing in Idlewild. And then all of a sudden I found myself investing in property.
Okay.
And being retired and then trying to figure out, okay, I'm retired, I'm not working anymore. Now what do I do with the rest of my life, right?
Yes.
I can't just sit at home and
yes.
watch TV and wait to die or sit in a rocking chair and crochet the rest of my time. What do I do? And like I said, I always wanted to see Idlewild make a comeback, and I've tried little bitty things here and there, and I'm like, okay, I'm retired, I've got a little bit of money, let me try something.
Okay.
You only live once,
yes.
Let me try something. And if it fails, but I'm going to try it. So I found myself buying 38 acres of land in Idlewild at a state auction.
Okay.
And I looked at the need of what I felt Idlewild needed. They say find a need and fill it, right?
Okay.
So I looked at Idlewild and I said, well, whenever my family and friends come to Idlewild, there's no place for them to really stay.
Yes.
We have one small motel, but everybody else, money goes out of Idlewild. It goes to Baldwin and other communities outside of Idlewild. So when visitors come, family and friends come, we can't all accommodate them at our small cottage. So they end up in Ludington, at a hotel in Ludington or a hotel in Big Rapids. So all of Idlewild's money goes out of Idlewild. So I said, to me, in my opinion, what Idlewild needs is accommodations for its visitors, for its tourists.
Yes.
And it's funny because I have these big dreams, and my dream was, okay, I'm going to do this hotel. I'm going to build this hotel in Idlewild because that's what it needs.
That's where it starts, though.
And so I said, okay, I'm going to get some land. I'm going to build a hotel. And then I got the land. I said, wait a minute, I can't do that. That's bigger than me. That's way bigger than me.
Okay.
So I said, I'll start at the bottom.
Okay.
I'll start at the bottom level. And I want on my land, I want outdoor accommodations. So I said, start at the bottom where people have a choice when they come to Idlewild. They can park their RV.
Yes.
They can attend all of the wonderful activities, events going on in Idlewild by parking the RV, pitching a tent, sleeping overnight in their van, or they have a place to park, right? And maybe some rental cabins on my property.
Oh, you got some things already.
And then I said, maybe later on, if I find those big pocket investors, maybe I could get somebody who wants to invest in building a hotel. So my mind was just going with all of these ideas about how to get tourists to come to Idlewild and how to keep the money here in Idlewild, how to keep those black dollars rolling in Idlewild and not going outside of Idlewild. But right now, as it is, we still send our tourists and our visitors out of Idlewild to eat. They're out of Idlewild, so all the money that should be staying in this community right now goes out. So I said, okay, I'm doing the accommodations, and I'm going to start with the RV park and campgrounds and work my way up.